a tragedy. It's a colossal.
So following the deadly mosque shooting in New Zealand, Trump said white supremacy isn't a danger, isn't a rising danger. What kind of effect is your US president's stance having?
Now, this is someone who has a long history of repeatedly stigmatizing Muslims, specifically Muslim minorities within his country and, as fact, globally. His remarks, will go down in history as definitely some of the worst forms of racializing Muslims, categorize them as a community that are unworthy. Now, at this moment in time, what's important to realize is the actions of this individual and the effects that it has. First and foremost, he's not set foot in a mosque on US soil. So that says a lot about what he thinks about the Muslim community. These utterances are what causes and spurs on people to feel emboldened and brave in carrying out and conducting hateful actions and violent atrocities. So, they're treading a very fine line by not just disregarding Islamophobia, but completely diminishing the existence of Muslims. So it's a very grave issue, and I think time will tell.
And actually, time repeats itself, because Islamophobia being on the rise is not something new to us. We've seen it before after 9/11 as well, or when it's more far-right governments in Europe too. So at this point, though, how do you tackle Islamophobia where we are today?
Indeed, you are right that this is, it's not just something that comes out of the blue. Prejudice has a long trajectory, especially within, worldwide, as a worldwide phenomenon. I document this in my research by contrasting anti-Semitism in Weimar-era Germany, whereby Jews were scapegoated, and the heightened feelings of hostility and vilification of Jewish communities. Now, your question regarding how to challenge it, in many ways, on different platforms, we can have governments actively coming out and, even just speaking about it, about Islamophobia as a terrible act of violence. This, in fact, was a terrorist atrocity. It needs to be spoken about as such. Other ways of challenging this is not normalizing fascist, anti-minority and xenophobic views, anti-Muslim, anti-Jewish, in all sorts of ways. When we have the BBC, for instance, platforming right-wing fascist groups who actively incite hatred of Muslims on the evening following this atrocity, instead, of even interrogating them in a way, or even questioning them about the effects of their speech. Instead, we had them platformed, and that was just quite insulting for those people who have lost their families in this attack.
Well, there's still a lot to do and a lot to talk about. Well, thank you very much for coming in, Dr. Maryyum Mehmood, and sharing your thoughts with us. In other news, authorities investigating the Ethiopian Airlines crash says the black boxes reveal clear similarities to the Lion Air incident in Indonesia in October. Both involved Boeing 737 MAX 8 jet, which has now been grounded in most countries. In both cases, the pilots had reported flight control problems soon after takeoff. A total of 346 people were killed in 2 accidents. Boeing has promised a software update for the aircraft model. More than 150 people have been killed in Mozambique, Malawi and Zimbabwe after a cyclone battered the region last week. The International Red Cross says 90% of the Mozambican port city of Beira has been destroyed or damaged. The aid workers say the damage is massive and horrifying after they gained access to the city on Monday. Cyclone Idai hit Beira on Thursday evening with flash floods and high winds before moving to Zimbabwe and Malawi. Reports suggest many are still missing after the floods.